House of Cards is brought to you by Drizzly, your online liquor store. Available in over 95 cities across North America, Drizzly offers a huge selection and competitive pricing with a side of personalized content. Now there's no need to leave the house. Get alcohol delivered in less than an hour by Drizzly. Head on over to drizzly.com and order today. And now get $5 off your first order of $20 or more when using promo code DRINK19 at checkout. Shop beer, wine, and liquor with drizzly.com.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls,
You're listening to House of Cards.
Today, the game is different.
I want to gamble. Gambling is a very serious business. Is that clear?
Welcome to House of Cards. Dave Weishaupt with you here, deep from the swamps of Jersey. We got a great show coming up for you. The gambling industry is reopening more and more with each passing week, and that means the sports betting business deals are heating up. One of the biggest deals in the sports betting industry happened last week with Better Collective acquiring the Action Network. We're going to find out all about this deal and what it means for the sports betting industry because we are going to talk with Adam Small from Better Collective and USBets.com. If you're a sports bettor, you have probably come into contact with both these great companies, and we're going to find out what this acquisition means for you. So stick around. We'll be right back with House of Cards.
I owed the IRS $10,000.
The IRS garnished my wages.
They put a lien on my house.
I'm self-employed and didn't report all my income. They claim I owe a lot more than I do.
The IRS is the most powerful collection agency in the world. They do not give up until you pay.
I couldn't sleep. We were being audited. I called Tax Solutions Now, and a great big weight was lifted off my shoulders.
I called Tax Solutions Now, and they got the IRS off my back.
Tax Solutions Now had my wage garnishment lifted in 48 hours.
Tax Solutions Now can get you help. Our agents know the rules, can stop the pain, and get you the best deal.
Tax Solutions Now saved my business.
I qualified for the Fresh Start program. I paid less than I owed.
We connect you with a team of former IRS agents and tax professionals who get the IRS off your back. Time is running out. Call Tax Solutions now.
Call 800-297-9788. 800-297-9788.
Psst. Yeah, you. Come here. Haven't you heard? We don't need to hide anymore. Now, we can shop privately for adult products at adamandeve.com. They've got massage oils, lingerie, and lots more we can't mention here. Use the offer code SPICE404. They'll give you 50% off almost any one item, 3 free DVDs, free mystery gift, and free shipping. That's 50% off, free shipping, and more. Private shopping starts at adamandeve.com.
You're listening to House of Cards.
I'm talking sick piles of money. I'm talking lay on your bed in your Vegas room, throw the money in the air, and dance as it showers down on you money. I'm talking frosted glass limo money. I'm talking big cowboy hat, silver turquoise buckle money. I'm talking gambling.
I am in love with you.
Welcome back to House of Cards. Dave Weishaupt with you here. The gambling industry is reopening more and more every week, and the sports betting deals are coming at a fast pace. One of the biggest that just occurred is Better Collective's acquisition of the Action Network. And to tell us all about this huge deal and what it means for the sports betting world from usbets.com and Better Collective, we have returning guest Adam Small. Adam, thanks for joining us, and congratulations to you and everyone at Better Collective on this incredible deal.
Yeah, thanks, Dave. It's great to be back. It's always awesome to be on this show. I love this show, and appreciate how much support you guys are always giving us. Yeah, it's exciting. I was telling you before the call, and I'll say again for the listeners, I'm not one of the people that's responsible for having made this deal happen or anything, so I don't want to be giving myself too much credit or anything like that, but I am part of the same company and really excited to be working with these guys and excited about what Better Collective is doing, having first acquired my company a couple of years ago and now this one, and it's just clear that they've got a lot of big plans for growth in the U.S. and to become a name that more and more people recognize here on this side of the pond.
You know, people who listen to this show hear me say Better Collective all the time because we have some of the great writers on from usbets.com, sportshandle.com, PennBets, and all their affiliated sites. But for people who are casual participants in the sports betting world, can you tell us a little more about Better Collective?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, it's probably something that I think the average person who's into sports betting isn't particularly aware that companies like ours exist or exactly what we do. But what we are is a big media organization in the sports betting and gambling world that covers sports betting and gambling around the world in a number of different formats. In some places, there are websites that do things like try to help people with making smart betting decisions. In other places, there are subscription products, including one of ours, rotogrinders.com, which offers subscriptions for daily fantasy sports, as well as Vegas Insider, which offers premium products surrounding sports betting, and other products as well that we're involved with here in the U.S. But there are also subscription products around the world. We do paid media. We do news coverage of the industry. There's just Better Collective has thousands of websites in various markets all around the world that cover the industry. And while they're based in Denmark, they have offices. We have offices in many countries around the world, including now several in the United States. And we exist within the sports betting and gambling ecosystem as a company that both provides media and coverage and products around the industry, but also helps bring new customers into the industry and to our gambling site partners via what's called affiliate marketing. And that's how we generate revenue. It's basically a form of advertising where we get paid rather than for showing ads to people, we get paid for each new customer that we send. So we focus on acquiring new customers for our gambling industry partners.
You know, I'm glad you brought that up because we always get more and more questions at the show about the sports betting, the business side of sports betting and how companies operate in the industry. I mean, we always throw around terms like CPA deals or revenue sharing deals, but can you get into a little more how Better Collective does business in the industry?
Yep. Yeah, so you mentioned CPA and rev share deals. That's a good place to start. I've written quite a bit about this personally over the years because I've been involved in affiliate marketing for pretty close to 20 years now. So in affiliate marketing, there are several different ways that you can be compensated as an affiliate. One way is by CPA, which is cost per acquisition. And that's where you simply get paid a flat fee for each new customer that you send. And the CPAs can vary greatly depending on what products you're promoting and what countries you're promoting them in and what kind of players you're sending. They vary very, very tremendously between different affiliates and different markets and so on. But that's effectively what it is. If you send 1,000 players, you get paid 1,000 times whatever that number is. On the other hand, there is something called revenue sharing that I think a lot of people have heard of, but maybe don't necessarily understand entirely, which is rather than getting paid for each customer you send, you get a percentage of revenue that those customers generate after you send them. And typically it's only really available these days to bigger affiliates, at least in the U.S. You've got to pay a lot of money just to get licensed to be a revenue sharing partner in most states. But even in Europe now, it's much less common than it was 10 or 15 years ago. The contracts are complicated, and as an affiliate, in order to be properly protected, have your business interests protected, you really need to be spending a fair amount of money up front on legal costs. And so I think these days probably more affiliates are doing CPA. Definitely in the U.S. that's the case. But both of these are ways of doing this kind of marketing. And the biggest difference is that, I think from the casual listener perspective, they think that when an affiliate's getting rev share, that they're, rooting for their players to lose, that you're trying to send players who lose money, or trying to give, in the case of sites that give sports betting tips, trying to give bad advice in order to get people to lose money. And that's really not the case. I think that's a popular perception among especially certain people on gambling Twitter that like to grumble a lot about affiliates, is that they're trying to make people lose money. Look, this business is not about giving money to players. The gambling business is not about bringing in players who you will then give money to and let them cash it out. Gambling sites and casinos are trying to win money off customers, and they expect when they receive a new customer, whoever that is, that the gambling site is going to be profitable against that customer, whether it's sports betting, casino, poker, or whatever. There aren't a whole lot of players that are cashing out more than they're depositing, and that's pretty transparent in this business. So when you're an affiliate and you send hundreds or thousands of players every month, on average, those players are going to be losing players. It's not because you're giving them bad advice. It's because these products are entertainment products that are not intended for people to be profiting off of them. And so yeah, I mean, there's not a lot of difference in terms of how you recruit players based on whether you're on rev share or CPA. The biggest difference is that one of these types of compensation you get paid up front for players that you send, and the other type of compensation you get paid over time as they generate revenue.
Okay, hold that thought. We're going to take a quick break. See you on the other side.
Attention seniors with Medicare. This is an important announcement. Did you know you may qualify for a monthly Social Security rebate? Did you know you may qualify for a $0 monthly premium? That's right. You may qualify to get $135 added back to your Social Security check each month. Just call the Medicare benefits line to get your options. It's a free call. You may also qualify for $0 premiums, dental coverage, vision coverage, hearing coverage, and prescription drug coverage. With this type of plan, you don't need Medicare supplement insurance. Call now because you deserve to get the most from your Medicare benefits, including a rebate to your Social Security check each month. Agents are standing by with free information regarding Medicare benefits. It's a free call with no obligation, but it could mean big savings for you. Call the Medicare benefits line now to see if you're eligible for a Social Security rebate.
Call 800-574-6770. 800-574-6770.
You're listening to House of Cards.
I'll bet you $20 I can get you gambling before the end of the day.
No way.
I'll give you 3-1 odds.
No.
5-1.
No.
10-1.
You're on.
Welcome back to House of Cards. Dave Weishottle with you. For those of you just joining us, I am talking with Adam Small from USBets.com and Better Collective. You know, we're coming out of a very challenging time in the sports betting and gambling world, but Better Collective really finished strong revenue-wise at the end of 2020. And for the first quarter of this year, the revenue figures were very strong. I think they grew in the first quarter by 86% from this time last year. How did Better Collective and the gambling sports betting industry weather the pandemic, and did they do better than they thought they would do when the pandemic started?
It's been a wild ride over the last 14 months or so. I guess we're speaking here in mid-May. The pandemic really started heating up in mid-March last year. So it's been about 14 months. Better Collective stock was sitting over a little over 100. It's in Swedish kroner, so it's about 100 kroners, is about $11 US. It was sitting around there, went all the way down to about 45 Swedish kroner, and then now it's sitting at about 240 as of the time of this call, and so it's gone up almost, I guess, more than 5x since its low point. And it's been a very wild ride in the stock. I think just like the stock market in general in the U.S., when we saw the Dow Jones go down to below 20,000 before now being up in the mid 30s somewhere, just stocks took a big tumble when the pandemic began, and Better Collective wasn't immune to that. But business wise, I think the plan was always solid. The guys that run the company have always had their eye on the future. They think long term, and they try to stay calm at the fluctuations that life brings. The pandemic was obviously a big hurdle for businesses all around the world, and in a business that depends on live sporting events actually happening, when sports completely grind to a halt for several months, it's very, very tough on the business. And I think short term, in the middle of all that, revenue took a massive hit. It went down by a massive chunk of what was expected, and there had to be some plans made for the interim. Here in the U.S., we were fortunate. Our company was a recipient of a PPP loan, which helped us not have to do any cutting of staff or anything like that. It was a good program for us that helped us maintain everyone, and then when sports came back, we were able to really pick things back up. But once sports did start again in July of last year, I guess it was June, and then July kind of was when it really started picking up, and especially once NFL made clear that they were going to have their full season and was able to do it, our business was really well prepared to take back off, and we had our best season ever in the fall of last year. Better Collective internationally had a great final quarter of last year and great first quarter of this year. And I think people spent a lot of the time in that early pandemic while stuck at home. Those who could worked really hard on preparing for the coming seasons. It was kind of a mixed bag for me and people like me that have kids that, had to juggle having our kids at home all the time with work. But we all managed to, I think, do a pretty good job and come out on the other side looking pretty good with just the prep that we did in that downtime and the way things picked back up once sports came back.
I want to get to the big deal that made news all over the world, and that is Better Collective's acquisition of the Action Network. I'm always curious how these business deals get initiated. I'm reading a book right now about the acquisition of Caesars, and that business deal started with a friendly conversation. How did discussions about acquiring Action Network get started? Because for me, it seemed to come out of the blue.
Yeah, I mean, I'm probably not the best person to ask. I wasn't involved in that part directly, but I know how they got started for acquiring us, and you're right that it is in some ways, I think, usually a kind of casual conversation for these things. I've been involved in a couple of acquisitions. I've been involved in buying a couple of companies, and I've been involved in selling a couple of companies. And I can tell you that it doesn't start off with, well, at least most of the time, it doesn't start off with somebody flying in 10 business executives to your office and, having a big bow tie meeting with all of them. That would just seem a little over the top to me. It's usually more like, at least the experiences I've had, the first conversation has almost always been at a conference, like something like G2E or ICE in London, or the couple of the conference in New York or New Jersey that they have for sports betting. And I think that the first time that we met with Better Collective was in Amsterdam about a year before we finalized that acquisition. It was just like, I think there was a dinner and a little bit of chat and kind of get to know you type of session. I've had those kinds of meetings, breakfasts or dinners at conferences with companies that didn't end up acquiring us, or that we didn't end up acquiring as well. And those kinds of casual chats. And yeah, the way it usually goes down is you get together because someone's got an interest in meeting you, or you've got an interest in meeting them, and you find a way to catch up. And maybe it's just for coffee or a meal, but you talk, you get to know each other a bit. And I think that helps, especially in the case of a buyer, but also in the case of a seller. It helps the party get to understand if this is a company that they want to do business with, especially when you're selling something for as much money as Action Network just sold for, which was about $250 million, or almost $250 million. It's such a huge life-altering event for the stakeholders, and really for everybody involved, down to the lower level, kind of entry level type people in the company. It's a big event for everyone because they're going to have a new employer. Their lives are going to change a lot over time. And it's very important to everyone who's built that business up to the point where it's worth that much, that they get this right. And so, yeah, before you start doing due diligence and getting lawyers involved, sometimes it's just nice to sit down and get a feeling for, is this someone that I want to even consider getting married to, right?
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I mean, it's like a first date. It's a very good analogy as the first date thing, long before the marriage proposal. So I would say that, in the case of an Action Network, while I wasn't party to those early discussions, Better Collective is really good about always being connected with everyone in the industry and putting lots of flyers out and communicating with people. And I'm sure that it started out with fairly casual talks. And the part I'm interested in that I'm not privy to, but I'd be really interested to know about is how it all went down, given that nobody has been traveling. I think Better Collective's had a pretty much full-on halt on business travel, and their top executives are pretty much all based in Denmark, meaning, if Action Network was all in the U.S., I'm pretty much assuming that there were no in-person meetings. I don't know that for sure, but I'm kind of assuming that, and that definitely that had to make things more challenging, because I know in our case, I was out in Denmark. I think it was about 2 months before we got the deal done with my partners, and they also came to Nashville a couple of times, and we had a whole bunch of calls as well. But there was, I think they put a lot of priority in coming and seeing our office and seeing what our operation was like and getting to know some of us in person. And I guess in this case, they just had to do it differently.
Okay, hold that thought. We're going to take a quick break. See you on the other side.
I owed the IRS $10,000.
The IRS garnished my wages.
They put a lien on my house.
I'm self-employed and didn't report all my income. They claim I owe a lot more than I do.
The IRS is the most powerful collection agency in the world. They do not give up until you pay.
I couldn't sleep. We were being audited. I called Tax Solutions Now, and a great big weight was lifted off my shoulders.
I called Tax Solutions Now, and they got the IRS off my back.
Tax Solutions Now had my wage garnishment lifted in 48 hours.
Tax Solutions Now can get you help. Our agents know the rules, can stop the pain, and get you the best deal.
Tax Solutions Now saved my business.
I qualified for the Fresh Start program. I paid less than I owed.
We connect you with a team of former IRS agents and tax professionals who get the IRS off your back. Time is running out. Call Tax Solutions now.
Call 800-297-9788. 800-297-9788.
Hey, this is Dave Weishuttle from House of Cards with your House of Cards gaming report for the week of May 24th, 2021. New Jersey's iGaming industry reported a slight decline in revenue for the month of April. Total revenue for online gaming amounted to $107.7 million, a decrease of only $6 million from March of this year. The state's online poker industry also reported a decline from the prior month, with revenues falling nearly 11% in April. Pimlico Racecourse reported a record handle for this year's Preakness Stakes, which finished the day with the upset win by the 11-1 Rombauer. The 14-race card generated a total handle of just over $112.5 million. The previous record for the Preakness had been set back in 2019 with a handle of $99 million. And finally, Atlantic City welcomed one of the largest arcades you will ever visit in your life. The $7 million Lucky Snake at Showboat opened last week. The complex, located on the floor of the former Showboat Casino, features an arcade, an esports gaming area, entertainment venues, and a sports bar with a boxing ring. Sounds like the boardwalk's going to be fun this summer. Have any news or tips regarding casinos, gaming, or legislation? Send us an email at newsroom@houseofcardsradio.com and follow us on Twitter at HOC Radio.
You're listening to House of Cards. Check out our website at houseofcardsradio.com.
Welcome back to House of Cards. Dave Weishuttle with you. For those of you just joining us, I am talking with Adam Small from usbets.com and Better Collective. I got to tell you, the Action Network is such a great site, and truth be known, I have the app on my phone right now because it helps me keep track of all the bets I make during the day. But why do you think it was so attractive for Better Collective as a property, and why do you think the Action Network would be a valuable property to acquire?
Well, I think it's an incredibly valuable property, and I think it's just starting to scratch the surface of its potential because they're really just starting to amp up their affiliate marketing side. They've been doing really well with products and subscription products for quite a while, but they're starting to really realize their potential on the other side as well. And I think that revenue-wise, it's clearly a good bet for them. But the other thing that I really like about it is you put it in contrast with some properties that some other companies have acquired that are more like the kind of properties that do well in search engines and thereby are able to send a lot of players and make money, but their websites are products that aren't very well known generally. Mm-hmm. And what that means is that those kinds of websites are very dependent on Google to be able to make money. And even if they're run by very intelligent people who are very good at search engine optimization, they're subject to the whims of this one company, basically Google, to continue having their success and generating revenue on the way that they are. And single events, big changes in Google's algorithm, penalties, things like that can cost the value of those websites millions of dollars. Whereas something like Action Network that has such a strong PR arm and strong product arm and is so well known publicly and employs famous sports journalists and just has so much reach already, even after only operating for a couple of years, something like that is a much better long-term bet. And it's why I think that it's better to spend $250 million on that than it is to spend $20 or $30 million on a strong revenue-generating website that doesn't have much reach and is just mostly a product of search engine optimization. So, and we do that search engine optimization too. We do that kind of stuff as well. But I think that these products that are really well known and that can become something that the public is familiar with and uses are so much more valuable over time. This acquisition showed to me that Better Collective is still thinking about 3 to 5 years down the road and not just today, because sports betting is going to keep growing in the U.S. There are still only about 10 or so states that have statewide mobile sports betting, and that number is going to grow. It's going to be in many states around the country 5 years from now, including big states. I think that states like Ohio and New York and Florida are already showing signs that it's going to happen pretty soon in some form or another. And eventually Texas and California will figure it out. And most of the bigger states in the country are going to have this product eventually. And if you get ahead and make these acquisitions, even if they sound expensive today, you can be really sitting on a bargain in the future when you keep building these products up better, and eventually you have bigger markets to promote to.
Now, this was Better Collective's biggest acquisition in the U.S. market. How will the Action Network fit in with the other properties that Better Collective has within the United States?
Yeah, it's the biggest acquisition ever by quite a bit. So, it was a big deal for them. I would say that as of now, at least based on what I've been told, it's going to be run completely separately from the rest of the U.S. stuff. They're going to maintain their own organizational structure and their own offices and their own staff, and not heavily intermingle with the rest of the company for now. That doesn't mean that we won't find synergies and work together. I've already had calls with people at Action and expect to have more of them. And we're going to find ways to help each other and make each other better. But they're not fully integrating operationally into the rest of Better Collective as of now.
For people like me who have Action Network app on their phone or subscribers to the Action Network, what can they expect in the coming months with regard to the Action Network? I mean, I get on to check my bets. Will there be a video of you telling me my Phillies game is losing? Because if that happens, I want to know in advance.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not completely in tune with their product roadmap or anything like that. But what I will say is that from everything I've heard, I wouldn't expect anything to change in a big way on Action Network from how it's been based on this acquisition. I would expect things to continue rolling out the way they have been, understanding that it's the same management staff in charge that's always been there, or that's been there at least going into this deal, and that whatever plans that they've had for their business and for their products are going to continue as such. And over time, definitely, I think, they'll be getting advice from others within the organization on how to keep improving things. But for the most part, it's going to be, Patrick Keane is the CEO of Action, and it still is going to be going forward. And I would expect everything mostly to be coming from him and the team that he's built there.
According to sources quoted in the Wall Street Journal, there was a competitive auction for the Action Network. And according to those sources, two of the companies who were involved in the bidding were DraftKings and FanDuel. I know a lot of media companies are doing deals with sportsbook operators. Do you think that's in the plans for Better Collective in the future?
To do deals directly with operators, you mean?
Yeah. Do you think that's, you never say never, but do you think Better Collective, that's in the plans for Better Collective later on? Or are there pros and cons to something like that?
It's an interesting thought. I've thought about this as well. I first of all, just backing up for a second, I thought it was pretty remarkable that Better Collective was the winner of this, this auction, so to speak, just because FanDuel and DraftKings, and especially DraftKings, they're so aggressive with their spending that you would think that they would be able to pay a higher premium on something like, we know that they bought Visson already, right, for $100 million, which, as far as I know, was in a much more precarious revenue and cash position than the Action Network. I'm not completely sure about all the details of that, but my understanding was that they were in a much more precarious position. And so it's very, very interesting to me that Better Collective came away with this one when we know that some of these operators, and particularly DraftKings, were at least interested. I'm not sure how far along they got in those talks, but obviously, Action was going to go to, I guess, the combination of whoever offered the most money and the most attractive situation going forward. And they ended up deciding it was Better Collective. Good for us.
Yeah, great.
So I as far as Better Collective combining with an operator, there's a couple things about that. There are a couple things about that would make it very tricky.
Yeah.
One is there's no operator, as far as I know, that is, the main operator all around the world. One of Better Collective's very biggest partners, for example, if not biggest internationally, is Bet365, which is in New Jersey and in a couple other markets in the U.S., but is nowhere near one of the dominant players in the United States so far at this point. They are, on the other hand, of course, a very dominant player in several other markets around the world, including the UK and much of Europe and, I believe, Asia. So it's kind of a tricky proposition to think of Better Collective, which is a company worth more than $1 billion US, going and getting acquired by a specific operator, or doing a kind of like exclusive partnership with one when it's got so many different properties that serve so many different markets. So my general thinking is that's not going to happen. Better Collective is a public company. They're going to continue focusing on trying to be independent and grow and improve upon what they are, grow their share value, and so on. And that's what I would expect over time, is that they try to just be a continually growing company, taking advantage of new market opportunities in growing areas like the U.S. and potentially Canada if they legalize sports betting, as there's talk of them doing it. And other growth opportunities around the world, and not focus on getting acquired or partnering exclusively with anybody.
When it comes to affiliate marketing, revenue sharing deals, CPA deals, what do deals like this mean for the sports betting industry? I mean, will we start seeing a change in the way companies in the sports betting business conduct business differently?
It's a good question. I'm really interested in this topic because it affects a lot about what I do day to day and our own prospects in business. And I definitely do worry that too much industry consolidation is probably not the best thing certainly for us, but also for customers, for operators, for everybody. When a few companies do get too big, it becomes problematic for pretty much everyone else. And so I do worry about it, particularly on the operator side. I think we're not at that point with affiliates yet where newer affiliates are blocked out. It's easier. The barrier to entry to become an affiliate is much lower than the barrier to entry to become an operator. But I worry particularly about too much operator consolidation. The thing with Flutter, which is the parent company of FanDuel and Betfair, and now PokerStars and CrownBet and SkyBet and pretty much any other sports betting brand you can name. I mean, I feel like they own everything. But when they merged with the Stars Group, which owns PokerStars and FoxBet and SkyBet and a bunch of other stuff, and basically, I think they were already maybe two of the three biggest sports betting and casino companies in the world. That one really concerned me. So far, they haven't really combined their operations yet, but I'm sure it's coming over time. And they've just got such a heavy footprint in horse racing with TVG and with retail sports betting in Europe with Betfair and some of those brands, with online sports betting in the U.S. with FanDuel and FoxBet, with PokerStars being the biggest in the world, with media, with the whole SkyBet thing. They're so heavy in everything all around the world that it feels like one of these conglomerates that's going to be bad for everyone else in their ecosystem at some point. And, we haven't felt the effects of that yet, at least noticeably. We have a really strong partnership with a bunch of their brands, but also with other competing brands like DraftKings and BetMGM and Rush Street and many others. But I do worry that just all this consolidation over time can only be a bad thing. On the other hand, it does encourage new people to come into the market in some ways, because if you don't believe you can ever be number one or top three in a market, the incentives to join are somewhat minimal unless you believe you can be acquired by one of the bigger players eventually. Well, on the operator side, I'm saying specifically because it's hard to become profitable anytime soon. When you join, you're shedding cash early on, and the prospect of getting acquired for hundreds of millions or billions of dollars is an attractive incentive to create a new business, and I think that's good for everyone. But yeah, I do worry eventually that these guys are just going to get so big that they're not going to need anybody else and just kind of run roughshod over everybody.
Okay, hold that thought. We're going to take a quick break. See you on the other side.
Haven't you heard? We don't need to hide anymore. Now, we can shop privately for adult products at adamandeve.com. They've got massage oils, lingerie, and lots more we can't mention here. Use offer code SPICE404. They'll give you 50% off almost any one item, 3 free DVDs, free mystery gift, and free shipping. That's 50% off, free shipping, and more. Private shopping starts at adamandeve.com.
Now that we're home more than ever, we need to feel safe. Call it a sign of the times or the world we now live in. What do you want to keep safe? The people in your life? What do you want to protect? Your possessions, the things that belong to you, the things that you've worked hard for. Wouldn't it be nice to have tested, trusted 24/7 protection? Peace of mind, real protection that's always there for you and your whole family? Well, now you can with one of our state-of-the-art home security systems. Everyone thinks their home is safe until the unexpected happens. Help protect your home and loved ones today with the affordable next generation in home security. To help keep your family and property safe, call 1-800-520-4068 now. Representatives are standing by to assist you. That's 1-800-250-4068. 1-800-520-4068.
You're listening to House of Cards.
Can you dig it? Can you dig it? Can you dig it?
Welcome back to House of Cards. Dave Weishottle with you. For those of you just joining us, I am talking with Adam Small from usbets.com and Better Collective. Well, let me ask you about the marketing aspect of it. I mean, recently I've been reading reports from Nielsen on the amount of sports betting industry is putting into television commercials in local markets. I think one of the stats was sports betting commercial ad buys is now one of the biggest ad categories in the country. I think Nielsen reported it as 11th top market or something like that. When it comes to advertising like that, do you think Better Collective or the Action Network or any of the sports betting media companies will start going that route in the future of like traditional television advertising? Or do you think they've been successful and right now they should keep marketing the way they've been marketing themselves?
Well, I think that there are going to be some issues eventually with all this, because you're right that the ads they can be out of control. And we saw what happened with Daily Fantasy 5 or 6 years ago when DraftKings and FanDuel both spent at least 1 week during the NFL season as the number one advertising brand in the entire U.S. Like, when DraftKings or FanDuel is spending more than Coke and Chevrolet and Budweiser and Nike and whatever, that they're going to be getting a lot of attention for doing so, and with attention comes scrutiny, and with scrutiny, you got to make sure that your business is really tight, and I'm just not sure that everyone is quite to that point yet in these markets. I think they're trying to be, but the U.S. markets are still very new, and there's a lot of focus on land grab and acquisition, and I think that has primacy above things like being careful about problem gambling, or making sure that you're basically perfect in a lot of ways that they need to do. We had an article on Sports Handle, one of our sites, just the other day, about how sportsbook advertising has become the top category for radio stations in New Jersey and elsewhere. I'm not sure if you saw that article, but it was very interesting by Jeff Edelstein. It came out on May 13th on Sports Handle. I highly recommend it for more reading on this topic. But I think that we will reach this point of saturation. It might have already been reached in some places. I heard from David Purdom from ESPN tweeted out the other day that his fishing guide, he was out in Colorado on vacation, and his fishing guide was complaining about how the sports betting ads are just nonstop and he can't take it anymore. And I've heard this from other people. I live in Georgia, so I don't experience this. We have basically no sports betting ads here.
I'm sitting here in New Jersey, and it's constant. I see online poker commercials, believe it or not.
And you haven't, I mean, it's not like it's new there either. You've had online sports betting for 3 years, and you've had online casinos and poker for 8 years now in New Jersey. So, I mean, if you're still experiencing that up there, then it's not just places like Colorado that have fairly new markets. So I am concerned that eventually people get annoyed and start complaining, or that it attracts too much government scrutiny. And I do think that the operators will respond well to this, but what I worry about is something like what happened with Daily Fantasy. It wouldn't be the same kind of issue. What happened with Daily Fantasy is we had this broadly unregulated product that I think the big operators at the time were really doing a good job of running like strong, careful products and doing a decent job with game security and all that, but it wasn't their top priority the way it would be if there were huge legal consequences or the possibility of losing their license if they were non-compliant. And so, of course, like I just said before, marketing kind of was primary above everything else. And they got themselves into hot water by attracting too much attention to themselves and not being prepared for a scandal, which eventually broke out when, in some ways it was a silly scandal, but it was an employee of one of the operators won a big tournament on another operator, and there were sort of some suspicions of impropriety. I think that what actually happened was pretty innocuous, but it didn't look that way to the public, and it didn't look that way when the New York Times was writing it up and so on. And they weren't prepared to deal with that. And they were fortunate they were able to get a strong lobbying effort and get regulations in a bunch of states and survive as businesses. We see FanDuel and DraftKings doing great today, but it might not have turned out so well. And I think with sports betting now, it's not going to be something like that because they are regulated products. It's not going to be that nobody's trying to be compliant. But where's the regulation, for example, on problem gambling? How far are we going in all of these different various states that are each basically like individual countries to make sure that we don't go overboard with the advertising side while ignoring the potential damage? And we've seen already with the gambling industry in the U.S. how this can play out poorly. State of Illinois is a good example with their video gaming terminals, VGTs. There have been massive problems because they've allowed them to go largely unchecked. They're sitting around in a bunch of rural parts of the state in these, just gas stations and truck stops and whatever. And a lot of people have lost a lot of money on these things. And it's largely, created a lot of negative perceptions about gambling in the state. And it has caused a lot of problems there. And we could see that happen in more places around the country if the operators don't get ahead of these issues. So yeah, I do worry, if we just only spend money on marketing, because that's what we're incentivized to do, because if we don't do it, someone else will, and we'll just lose the market. If that's the primary focus for everybody, we're going to run into problems eventually.
You know, when people hear about deals like the Better Collective Action Network deal, they get excited about sports betting, and they get to thinking, what's next for the industry? Where do you see the sports betting industry going in 2021?
I think that we'll see more states. I think we'll always just keep seeing more states. For now, we're still in that period. It definitely feels like a bit slower year compared to last year, where we had, Tennessee, and then at the beginning of this year, Michigan, Virginia, several big states, Colorado, Indiana last year. It really happened, a lot of stuff at once to grow the space. And I think it's not going to be quite that fast, but we will continue to see more markets try to find their approach. I think something that's interesting that been pointed out by a few people on Twitter and elsewhere recently is that we see more of these states, particularly with, as someone put it, a strong governor or strong executive, trying to do a little bit more to make the markets a little less competitive, which is not great for marketers such as myself, and not great for consumers either. But it's governors looking at this, or state legislative bodies looking at this more as really a simple problem of how to get the state the most revenue. The same way that they look at something like a lottery, where it's not focused on allowing businesses to grow or job creation or creating a strong market. It's not really focused on any of those things. It's really just focused solely on one thing, which is how to get the most revenue for the state. That's the approach that we've seen New York pretty strongly advocate to date. It seems to be the approach that's happening down in Florida as well. And I think it's got to concern some people in the industry if more of the biggest states take this approach rather than the approach that we've seen in states like New Jersey and Michigan that are a little bit more just market oriented and competitive and focused on job and industry growth. Well, what you're seeing in New York and Florida, the two biggest states that have really tackled this topic at all so far, is much more of a, how can we just maximize that state revenue? How can we get 50% of everything comes in going to the state? So I think that is a trend for everyone to be wary of and to be aware of, that it might be going this way, that there are a couple small states that have done it, that have done this kind of more lottery-focused approach, Oregon, New Hampshire. But if it becomes the trend, if all the biggest states going forward go this route, it would be troubling for the prospects of the industry.
Adam, we're running out of time, and this is usually the time when I tell you to give out a website to keep people up to date about what's going on. But Better Collective has so many great websites under their umbrella. Give us some great Better Collective websites people should check out.
Well, I always got to pump Sports Handle and US Bets. Those are the sites that I'm very directly involved in, that cover industry news so closely. Sports Handle, particularly on the legislative and regulatory side, just covering everything that's going on state by state around the U.S., and then US Bets, telling stories about gambling and both casino sports, also poker, all around the U.S. These are great websites, great resources nationally, wherever you are, to follow what's going on in the States. And then, of course, Roto Grinders, if you're interested in fantasy, come over and check us out. We've got subscription products that can really help everybody on the fantasy sports side. So we'd love to have your traffic anywhere, and come in and visit and see what you like.
Adam Small from Better Collective and USBets.com. Thanks so much for coming on and telling us all about the incredible Better Collective Action Network deal. Congratulations to you and everyone at Better Collective, and I can't wait to see what's in store for them next. Please come back on soon and keep us updated.
Great to be here. Thanks.
Well, that'll do it for us this week on House of Cards. If you're going to one of the newly reopened casinos, poker rooms, or sports books, please be safe. We'll see you next time on House of Cards.